State of the franchise is back, and boy, do we have a lot to break down regarding the San Francisco 49ers because it is Eagles week, probably the biggest week of the season. At least that's what it's feeling like right now, but we're going to break it all down. They're going to talk about it because we have what feels like the matchup of the century coming up, but we'll discuss more with Jason Aponte on State of the Franchise right after this. Let's go. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Jason Aponte, per usual. We're going to start off with the vibe check. How we doing over there on the East Coast?
Oh, we're vibing. There's definitely a little bit of a tension in the air, right? Like I live in northern New Jersey, in which southern New Jersey is much more close to Philly. That's why if you ever go to southern New Jersey, they're all Eagles fans. They're not Jets fans. They're not Giants fans. They're not Patriots fans. They're not Cowboys. Nothing like that. It's all Eagles. But the Eagles fans here in northern New Jersey, there's a tension in the air right now with this, right? Because they won how they won in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
And they get that because that's the biggest win. But in the back of their mind, they're like, man, but Brock Purdy was injured in that game. And now the Niners come in clicking a little bit more. And now this game may say a little bit more about that game than they would like it to. And that's kind of been the emphasis this week. When speaking about the 49ers is with all the talk, everything that went on back and forth, and it is literally bled over to people who aren't even on the Eagles anymore. You know, look at C.J. Gardner-Johnson, like the guy's on the Lions, and he's still
He's
upset
still
with Deebo Samuel.
chirping Deebo.
But it's still very much this week is put up or shut up. I don't want to hear about what you could have done, what was supposed to happen. You have a chance on Sunday to not only send a message, which is a statement that I think is louder than any win that you could put in your win column. Send a message that, hey, don't let us come back here. We can do this. So I think that's kind of where the tension is right now with the Eagles fans is like, they're like, yes, we're confident in our team. We find ways to win games. But, man, you're looking at a team right now that's rolling and that has all this revenge on their minds and is playing as well. So they're not nervous, but I think they understand completely what's going on.
I love that you started off with that kind of sentiment because as someone who was in that stadium last year for the NFC Championship game, those vibes were the vibes that I felt when Christian McCaffrey busted off that touchdown run with Johnson at quarterback. They were like, "Oh
Oh,
my
no.
gosh, they could
Right.
still win this," because the game at that point was still somewhat close.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you have Christian McCaffrey, who won another FedEx Ground Player of the Week award, I believe it was 4th on the year. You have a chance to win games with CMC at the helm, even without a quarterback. But obviously, we know how everything went down. But I did find that interesting that you brought that up because I remember standing in my seat, surrounded by Eagles fans. And, I have a ton of anxiety myself. But when he scored that run, the quiet, nervous energy that came over that entire building was palpable. So that kind of spins us into this conversation about like, I don't think it's ever happened that a road team like the San Francisco 49ers have went to a place to play a team like the Eagles, who's on a winning streak, and been favorites at that team's home.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that aspect of it? Obviously, that's a betting line, and that's
Yeah.
Las Vegas, money, all that different types of stuff. And there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. However, people do look at it and they kind of base who's favored to win kind of off that stuff. How do you think the Eagles are looking at that? How do you think, how's your just perception of that in general?
I think because I did an Eagles podcast yesterday, actually, and they were very fair about where they are right now. I think the Philadelphia Eagles still haven't put together a complete game. And I went as far as to say that I admire that a little bit about the way they've been winning because you're getting wins out of the mud, right? You don't have to play a full game. You're just finding a way to get it done. And I think that's the mark of a great team. Having said that, this betting line is based on the amount of people putting money on the 49ers at this point because you've just watched Philadelphia against Buffalo and Kansas City, and it's one or two plays. And we have a completely different conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles right now and Jalen Hurts as the leading MVP candidate, which I've got so many thoughts about that. And it's like now QB wins matter. Now QB wins is a QB stat when it comes to this. Again, I said it last week. I think
That's the narrative.
the argument for a non-quarterback to win the MVP grows by the week. It grows by the week at this point. And I'm not letting off of the fact that Tyreek Hill is the MVP of this league, I think, through this amount of time, especially watching that Hard Knocks episode, the first one that just came out with Miami and how much he means to that team. But the betting lines moved because everyone is putting money on the 49ers at this point because the 49ers have played complete games this season. The Philadelphia Eagles have won games this season despite not putting together a complete game. And I wonder if people are overlooking how hard it is to do what the Eagles have done, right? Meaning you haven't put an entire 4 quarters together, but you've got one loss. You've got one loss. Now, how much of that is
Zach Wilson?
Right. And of all people, by the way.
Of all people.
It's funny to me because people want to say, well, the refs are helping. Well, MVS dropped his pass. Well, James Cook dropped his pass. Well, there's little things.
Davis ran the wrong route or whatever.
Right. You can always look at those things in any sort of victory and try to pick that apart if you want to pick apart the argument against the team. But at the same time, I feel like that's a little bit more impressive what the Eagles have been able to do in terms of winning games when you haven't played well. The 49ers haven't shown that they can do that yet. The 49ers have shown that when they're firing on all cylinders, you can't beat them. But in this league, how often are you firing on all cylinders? Do you expect this to continue? I think that's what's interesting between the two teams because I do believe the 49ers and Eagles are the two best teams in the NFL. I don't want to hear about Kansas City anymore. I don't want to hear about anybody else. Nobody in the NFC, right? Dallas is doing exactly what Dallas usually does. They beat up on teams they're supposed to beat up on. We have our regular week's conversation about whether Dak's elite and whether Dak belongs in this conversation, like with all the top guys. This is a year-round thing with the Dallas Cowboys. They have yet to put together a win against a convincing opponent before I can be worried about them. And then everyone else in the NFC is just kind of also rans at this point. Even Detroit has kind of shown their cracks a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting the parallels between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that's why you're seeing the betting line move is because despite the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are 10-1, a lot of people still feel that the San Francisco 49ers are the more well-rounded team. They played more well-rounded games, and they've won in more convincing fashion than the teams that the Philadelphia Eagles have beat. I think that's why you see the line moving in the way that it has.
I was just about to say, there it goes. Summed up perfectly. Like, really, like you brought all the points together and then really brought it home there at the end. Like, it's really hard to even add on to that other than the fact that I agree with you. Like, it's that simple. And I think the biggest point that you make is kind of the differences between these two teams and how it's almost a 180 kind of a situation. Mm-hmm. It's like a yin and yang situation where the 49ers, how many times have we came on the state of the franchise in years past and talked about, man, this 49ers offense just has a really hard time starting games. Well, this year, it's the opposite. They start out really fast. They're almost scoring on nearly every opening drive sequence by the 49ers offense. And it's kind of the counterpart of it. They kind of let off the gas a little bit, or they let teams kind of hang around. Even happened with the Seattle Seahawks, right? There was a moment in that game when they throw that pick six where you're like, all right, we've seen this movie before.
That was the only moment in that game that we were a little nervous, though. That was it.
100%. But from the past seasons, right, we've seen where the 49ers would let teams hang around and then kind of lose that momentum and would come back to bite them in the end. Whereas The Eagles are the exact opposite this season, where seemingly nothing can go right for them in the first half. I think the last 5 games they've won, they've been behind at halftime. They just like there's been
Outscore everybody in
points,
the second half.
yeah, and they turn it on and they flip up 21 points on the board in like a 5-minute span. And this is why I believe this has to be the biggest test for the San Francisco 49ers this year to prove that, I don't think there's any type of pretender anything on them. They're
Hmm.
the real
No,
deal. They're
they are.
they're a complete team, probably the most complete team in the NFL right now, or up there with the Eagles, like in consideration
No,
with
the Niners
them.
are the most complete team. I would say that. But the Eagles have found ways to win games that the 49ers haven't. So that's why they deserve all the credit that they get.
I agree. And I think to discredit the Eagles for the way they win
Nope.
is actually a bit of a fool's errand,
Hmm.
because when I specifically talk about football and what it is like in its like roots, it's like half the time what these games come down to is who can make the least amount of mistakes,
That's it.
right? So it's like we're coming into a situation where the 49ers play really clean ball and the Eagles kind of clunky. But one of the greatest measures of a team, in my opinion, is how they finish games.
Yep.
And that's why the Eagles right now, listen, I love my 49ers. I think they're phenomenal right now. But if I had to give you an unbiased take, I got to put
Yeah.
the Eagles right there ahead of us. Like, just
For sure.
because how they're winning games, that's impressive to me. I don't knock them for that. I think that's
Nope.
actually more impressive that,
Impressive. 100%.
yes, are they getting bailed out in certain moments? Of course.
Maybe.
That's why you have to take
But
advantage
you
of every single
right.
moment.
Like Brad, like if you leave it up to those little moments and they just happen to go the Eagles' way, like that's because the Eagles have fought their way and kept it as close as they have, right? So keep going. I just want to say that.
Yeah. So, and this is the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for the San Francisco 49ers to go into Philly, rectify that game last year, and really prove to themselves, to the world, whoever. I think the biggest thing they have to prove to is themselves
Yeah,
that they can get over this hump.
I think so
And
too.
if they can do this and go into Philly, into that environment, all the lead up, all the talk, all the drama, this is the type of momentum that a team can grab and ride it straight through the playoff. That's why this game is so huge.
And I just wrote an article on Niners Nation. It came out today, and it's a poll for Niners fans. A win like this can springboard the 49ers to not lose again in the regular season. Like it literally can, right? Like now, all right. So let's just look at the schedule rationally, right? You find a way to walk out of this game on Sunday against Philly. Okay. Then you get Seattle, you get Arizona, you get the
Ravens
Ravens,
on
which
Christmas.
Baltimore is the scariest game still on. I don't care who's available. As long as Lamar Jackson's available, that game scares the bejesus out of me. And then you get Washington and Los Angeles. It's like, hey, there is a chance that the team can run 6 straight off, right? Now, because nobody else helps you, Kansas City, Buffalo didn't help us. One of those teams would have been nice if they would have secured a win to kind of make this game a lot closer than it can be in terms of them moving into the number 1 seed. But the 49ers could logistically end the season 14-3 and still not have enough to be the number 1 seed.
Right.
That's insane to me. That's insane to me. That is insane to me, right? You look
Yeah.
at Philly's schedule, and we went through the gauntlet, right? Like we went through that, right? Like we said, hey, you get Kansas City, Buffalo, Niners, Seattle, Dallas, right? Like or whatever the order is. I think Philly is still going to beat Dallas. I think we know who Dallas is at this point. It's where's the next loss coming from, which is why
Right.
you always needed one more. I figured Kansas City or Buffalo could have done it. Both of them could have done it. And then,
Almost had
yeah,
it.
yeah, both of them could have done it. But I want to like talk about a little bit about what you said about it being more impressive for the Eagles winning games without playing their best game. The question I want to pose to you, Brad, is when is the dagger coming? When will the Philadelphia Eagles put it all together for a game? Because that team if they put it all together for an entire game, doesn't seem like a team that anyone can beat when they're rolling, especially at home. I I don't know if the team that we've seen for this many weeks is going to be the team that we're going to see going forward for the duration of their schedule. And also, this is a sore subject for me because I'm a double agent for the Philadelphia Eagles. If you know, you know. Make sure you get your jokes off in the comments and everything as well too. I'm not letting that slide. Also, by the way, I'm not looking at the comments, but you guys can go.
I've had multiple comments in the lives leading up to this one talking about double agent.
Aponte being a double agent. Yeah, look, you got it. You got it. Like, you got it. You guys can have at it with the jokes and everything. But no, realistically, looking at it from the outside, looking in, right? Is it more impressive when everything goes right and your team wins and you win than it being more impressive than winning nearly every game when things have not gone right for you at all, almost, and you're finding a way to win? And I think everyone would agree the Philadelphia Eagles have yet to put their best game on tape this season.
I agree.
Now, that doesn't mean that that game is coming, but when you're looking at a team that's this talented, has been to the Super Bowl, how can you not expect this game to end up happening? And maybe it ends up happening against a team that they don't even need their best game against, right? Like, maybe that's when it comes up. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. The Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers are the two best teams in the NFL. One of these teams is going to win the Super Bowl. One of them. And it all depends on who comes out the back end of it. But the 49ers need to win this game to let Philadelphia know that if we have to come back, remember this. Remember this win. Remember this, because we can do it again. And and I don't want to hear anything about like where you should be ending up. Obviously, the goal is to have the number one seed and have everybody come to you. Clearly, the 49ers are still in play with that. I think they have like a 27% shot at this point. But if you're the number 2 seed and you have to put going and traveling all the way off until the NFC Championship game in Philly, at least put it on tape that you can do it in Philly. Because there's no way the Eagles are going to sit there and act like, oh, well, we didn't really want this one. If they didn't really want this one, Hassan Reddick wouldn't be talking crazy. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who doesn't even play for them, wouldn't be talking crazy. They want this one just as bad as ever because this team is healthy. So they want this one just as bad as the 49ers do, just to prove a point, because they hear it all. They hear, hey, you wouldn't have beat them if Purdy would have played. You wouldn't have beat them if they had their game plan like set up all the way, right? And it's just that one play where Purdy gets injured. You know, if that play goes on 10 times, you know, let's say 6 of them he hits Brandon Ayuk and steps up. 3 of those or 2 of those end up being or 3 of those end up being a sack. Just Hassan Reddick sacking Brock Purdy, and you lose the down and you lose the yardage. And then one of those ends up being Brock Purdy tearing up his elbow.
Just a fumble, like just
loss of possession. Or even still, like, you know, losing the, like, either way, the 1 out of 10 shots of that scenario where Tyler Kroft was blocking Hassan Reddick, it ended up with Brock tearing up his elbow when it could have just been a normal sack. And it would have just been a loss of down, and you know what? Maybe you punt that drive, but you have your quarterback going all the way. The Eagles feel that. The Eagles feel all of that because they know that everyone else is kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop with the 49ers to say, well, can you beat them when their quarterback plays the entire game? And I would argue, obviously, that Brock Purdy's playing better football this season than he was at any point last season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the main points that you were hitting on, one of my coaches said this to me kind of later on in my kind of football career, where it just really stuck out to me. And it was just something that I wish I kind of wrapped my head around earlier. He said to me, football is 85% mental and 15% physical. We spend so much time focusing on all the physical aspects of football, but it is so mentally driven at the highest of levels that's kind of where I feel heading into this game is a huge mental battle, right? For the 49ers on the road, back to Philly, smashing the demons of the past, the issues with the injuries like you talked about, all the trash talk, all the fans getting involved and trolling them to death and all that type of stuff, all that back and forth. This feels like the mental edge that you can gain on your opponent. You said it. 49ers, Eagles are the best two teams in the NFL. I do not disagree. And if you can have a mental edge on that other opponent heading into the playoffs, that advantage is so huge. That's why I want this game to be the Eagles' best. I want to see the Eagles' best. I want this to be the Eagles' best performance of the year.
Brad, Lane Johnson, drink some chicken soup. Make sure you're out on the field. Dallas Goedert, take whatever you need. Take whatever you need, and make sure your forearm is good. I want all of them. I wanted Lane Johnson to take this week off so you can be ready for this week. I want every single excuse out. I want it out. I want it completely out. Because if Lane Johnson struggles and he gets dominated by somebody, I don't want to hear he was injured. Nah, he took the week off. He don't miss games. Last year, he had an injury that knocked people out for the season and played through it, and everyone acted like he was a hero. So I don't want to hear about this week being, well, he's injured off of. No. Get him healthy. Get him some soup. Get him a blanket. Get him ready. I want him ready for Sunday. I want him back. I want Dallas Goedert back. I want Randall Cunningham back. I want all of these guys. Bring Shady McCoy. Bring them all. Everybody. Every single person. I want all of you guys back. I don't want to hear.
Bring them all back.
Brian Dawkins. Bring in Freddie Mitchell. Bring in Todd Pinkston. I don't care. Bring back Andy Reid. I want all of you guys here. I want all of you guys here because I don't want to hear any excuses at this time. Right? This is a game you need to win, right? And I don't want to hear about the rest excuse because I've already laid it out. The 49ers have been behind the 8 ball with rest schedule, everything. I don't want to hear any of that. You, right now, have been on the field. Your defense has been on the field for 140 plays the last 2 weeks. Keep going, 49ers. Hold them on the field. Make them work. Make them uncomfortable. I don't want to hear any excuses. Not rest. Not your starters missing, not anything. Anybody. Bring your Hall of Famers. Bring Rocky, who's not even real. Bring everybody. I don't want any excuses. Y'all protect a fictional boxer in your town more than the real boxer from your town, Joe Frazier. I don't want to hear any discussion about who's playing in this game or who's not. Either tell them to play, man up, ice up, get ready, or not, then send them home. I don't want to hear any of that.
150%. That's exactly how it's got to be. It's got to be the best shot from both sides. It's got to be. I want to see. I hope weather isn't involved. I don't want to hear nothing about slippery footballs. I don't want to hear, oh, well, it was a torrential downpour. No, I want clear skies, nice little chill on the East Coast. I want all full health on both sides, and I want the best game from both. I want both coordinators, best cold games possible. I want the best shot. I don't want to at all. Like you said, no excuses. I don't want to come out of this game. Yeah, you won, but no.
Yeah, no.
Nope. I don't want none of that. I want the Eagles' number one shot. I want to come out of this game talking about, wow, that was the best we've seen this Eagles team. And the San Francisco 49ers still came out victorious. That's the narrative that I want to hear out of this game so that we can completely put that NFC Championship behind us and say, this is the team that we are, and this is the team that we are moving into the playoffs. I can't freaking wait.
Look, Max Cruz says Jason's speech going to make Greenlaw get minimum 2 necessary roughness calls. It isn't a real game until Greenlaw tries to rip somebody's head off at this point.
He better rip someone's head off.
Look, obviously I'm being overly optimistic, I guess, emotional right now, whatever it is. But I don't want any excuses. Like, I would prefer to face a team head up, like, all the way through because I want to rip all those excuses away. But at the same 100%. Time, I'm going to keep the same energy for the San Francisco 49ers. And I want to reiterate that, and I want to make sure we get on this other side, which is probably going to make me lose all of the good points that I got right now after that. But if the 49ers don't come out, put up or shut up and do what they have to do, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about, oh, well, this happened. Oh, well, this happened. No. I covered my first Super Bowl in Arizona, right? And the opening media night, the Philadelphia Eagles, they were not asked about the Kansas City Chiefs. They were not asked about what they plan to do in the Super Bowl. They were not asked about their favorite dishes in Arizona. They were asked specifically about what San Francisco 49ers players said. And they answered that. Now, to be fair, when the 49ers were on Media Row, when we were walking around, everyone knew that they had to ask questions to the 49ers about the Philadelphia Eagles. And some of them gave very candid responses. Obviously, on the I Am Athlete podcast is where you heard Deebo Samuel call Bradbury trash. And Ayuk said they would have put up this amount of numbers. I mean, hell, poor Trey Lance, who wasn't even in the game, was asked about what was going to happen in that Philadelphia Eagles game. That, like, I want to make sure that we separate the fact that the 49ers weren't dying to talk about the Eagles, but the media wanted to know about that because that was more hot button than the actual Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
that had to do with the fact that Brock Purdy didn't play in that game. But if the 49ers don't find a way to win this game, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see Samuel going on K. Adams' show and saying, yeah, well, you know what? We'll see them again. No, 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 no. That's Cowboys behavior. That's what the Cowboys keep telling you is next time we'll get you. Next time we'll get you. No, this week is the week that you need to show up, right? All that talk, all that week, all off season, everything, all that talk has to show up this week. It has to show up this week. You're the healthiest you've been in a long time. You have a mini bye. You're playing the best football you've been playing since your first 5 games. I don't want to hear anything about excuses about what you should have done. You, as the 49ers, win this game and talk all you want, or lose this game and be quiet and move on. That's all I want.
This game means so much. And again, like you talked about earlier on the show, it's like the implications are going to go into the playoffs based on this game. That there is a path where maybe the 49ers do get the win and the Eagles lose, and we somehow switch off seeding. That still exists. Obviously, it's going to be a tough task based on how the Eagles have been playing up until this point, but that still exists. And of course, if they beat them, they get in within one game of that seeding. And who knows what mental effect that could have on the losing team one way or the other. So this game, like you said it perfectly, it's really simple. Just no excuses on either side. And I think that's been one of the things where players, like we've heard from Brandon Ayuk, we've heard from Deebo Samuel, we've heard from Bosa, at least most of the guys are clearly beyond the NFC Championship game and clearly beyond trying to talk about it. They're so focused on this game that honestly, this is going to be a NFC Championship caliber energy. Like,
Vibe.
and you don't typically get this in week 13. And that's what this game is. It is going to have those same. I really think the 49ers are going into this game like straight up thinking like this is our chance to prove to ourselves that we absolutely should have been playing in that Super Bowl. We absolutely should have taken this team for a walk. And just like Brandon Ayuk told me, they were going to expose this defense, and I want to see it happen. I do. Yeah. You know, we don't need to hear about it anymore. I'm ready to see it. And I think this matchup has everything you could ask for in a regular season matchup outside of a playoff game. Yep. This game is crazy, man. Like I'm sitting here hyped up like you're talking about it. Like I'm freaking like I'm ready to run through a brick wall. That's like right. This game has so much buildup to it, and the implications that come after it are going to be insane as well. Yep. Because what are we going to be talking about after this game if they win? What's the talking points? What's the narratives? What's the
nobody can beat the 49ers?
Going to be spinning on?
That's it.
100%. The 49ers are the best team in the NFL. You know, Brock Purdy, CMC, MVP, all that type of stuff. It's going to be wild. But also on the flip side of it, if they don't, we know what's coming as well. Oh, see, this is the 49ers that we know. They aren't ready for this type of heavyweight bout. They aren't that team. They don't got those guys. Brock Purdy ain't him. All that stuff is going to be coming. So go out and win the damn game.
Yeah. And Brad, I mean, we should get into the analysis of the game because where do you beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Yeah, I know. It's just me yelling at this point. And by the way, we're half hour in. Make sure you guys like this video on both channels, subscribe to both channels, hit that notification bell for when we go live. This is a big week. This is the week we've been waiting for.
And we'll get to the super chats here in 1 second.
Yeah, let me just get this off real quick and we can do that. So, and for the people asking why this game is not flexed, Fox paid really good money to have this as game of the week. If you think they're just going to turn it over to NBC to just
Right.
have that on Sunday
Right.
Night Football,
I said, nope.
you don't know Rupert Murdoch. You don't know Rupert Murdoch. All right. So let me do some deep diving a little bit, right? So what I noticed is game script has a lot to do with the fact that numbers look the way they do on defense, right? So the 49ers and the Eagles are 1 and 2 in rushing yards allowed per game, right? But I don't think that tells the story because the Philadelphia Eagles are rarely in a place where people can run the football on them or right like they're not blowing them out, right? Like they're never like in that way, right? Like the running game's abandoned against the 49ers because they're up by a bunch, right? Like but
Right.
the Eagles have never really been in those games, right? So I think that's a little bit like skewed when it comes to that. But you have to make sure that you are attacking the back end. And you heard what Deebo Samuel said. I'm not going to repeat it. I think you guys know. But this is very interesting because these numbers are up against the same amount of coverage snaps. So Darius Slay has 499 coverage snaps. James Bradbury has 488. That's 11 coverage snaps difference. So it's the same amount. They've both been targeted a nice amount of targets of 69. And as of right now, Darius Slay has allowed 45 receptions, 511 yards, 218 yards after catch, 5 PBUs, 2 touchdowns, two touchdowns allowed, 2 interceptions, and an 84.9 NFL rating, right? Now, James Bradbury has the same amount of targets allowed. He's actually allowed 37 receptions, which is less, but the number is 436 yards, 53.6% receiving, targets, right? That seems like it's low, right? Like it feels like it's swayed the other way. It's like, well, wasn't Bradbury the weak link? But 7 PBUs for Bradbury, which is really good. Got his first interception. 7 touchdowns allowed. 100.9 NFL passer rating allowed for James Bradbury. Yes, you have to go after their corners. You have to throw the football on them. Now, what I've noticed, as I go through this game over and over about how the 49ers, what's their path to victory? Well, their path to victory is time of possession. I explained it, right? 76 plays against the Kansas City Chiefs, 64 against Buffalo, and in overtime. The last 2 weeks. That's about 140 plays for their defense, and they've been outpossessed a ton. If the 49ers can possess the football, hit explosive plays, keep the defense on the field, make them work, get them tired into the fourth quarter, the 49ers have as good a shot as anybody to go in there and finish the job. Now, again, that has to do with what's been going on the last few weeks. And the Eagles have made enough plays in both those games, specifically against Kansas City on defense, aside from the MVS drop. I think their game plan against Philadelphia gives me more hope than the Buffalo game plan. Because Kansas City was able to pressure Jalen Hurts, not let him run as much, and Chris Jones was an absolute menace in this game. But you have to target Slay and Bradbury. You have to go after them. You have to put them in the same position you were going to do in the NFC Championship game, in which you were going to use motion to confuse them, get guys moving in the wrong direction. That Kansas City literally copied and paste, ran within their Super Bowl. It wasn't the slippery field. They had miscommunication errors. Move the ball in terms of move your receivers in terms of motion. Get them confused, and you can generate those throws. You've got to get the ball out on time and not allow this pass rush to get to you. But the 49ers are in such a position right now to win this game. Everything kind of just points to them in terms of what they want to do, how they've been playing, and what they can execute. So this isn't me being a 49ers homer. It's more about, man, the Philadelphia Eagles have been through war the last 2 weeks. Their defense is a little on the ropes. If you turn the ball over a few times against this 49ers team, you're probably not going to win this game. And I think that's kind of where Kansas City and Buffalo have let go. So that's where you need to attack this team right now. You need to attack them time of possession, but you need to have your explosive plays not only through the run game, but you have to throw the football on their secondary. Absolutely.
I agree 100%. And for me, it's setting up the attack on the secondary by dominating on the run early. I think the 49ers really have to set the tone in the trenches up front and start gashing them early, because we know this Eagles team. I mean, you can go back to last year, you can watch them here. They don't totally have a ton of respect for play action. Like, they feel really confident with their rushers that they just pin their ears back and go after the quarterback, run, pass, whatever. They have things in play to make sure that they don't get beat deep in those types of scenarios. And I think that's part of when we look at some of the issues that the 49ers ran into last year, they were kind of forcing play action before the run had actually totally been solidified. And so I think this year, the 49ers need to start out on the ground. I think they really need to do it between the tackles, implement some more outside zone. I think one of the biggest takeaways from watching the 49ers versus Seattle was we saw some nice cutback lanes off of zone style concepts up front on that offensive line. And if we can get back to adding more zone style concepts into this running game, which isn't a dedicated hole, it's based on feel. It's based on Christian McCaffrey going, I'm going to push this to the left, but I have all the right in the world to cut it all the way back if I want to. We saw him chunk yard after chunk yard pushing to the left and cutting back to the right, off Feliciano, off Colton McKivitz. I really think the 49ers need to not worry about the pass to begin with and really hammer home on moving the ball on the ground, picking up first downs, getting them to focus and bite on the run and have to play the run. And that's when you attack. That's when you go after those guys. And then that balance and that rhythm of getting the Eagles stuck in, do we cover the run? Do we cover the pass? Oh, play action. Here comes the screen. What are we going to do? I really think the 49ers need to start up front, solidify the run game for the passing attack to be the most detrimental. That's really what I want to see. I want to see them slow down. I want to see that pass rush be confused. I want to see Hassan Reddick on screen alert. I want him to be confused, and that's really where I see it happening. So I think we're pretty much aligned there, like, because you want to see them attack the secondary. I want to see them attack that front seven that has a phenomenal defensive line, and if they can get that push, that whole system starts working together, attacking their defensive front and then attacking their secondary, and then get them all twisted up like a pretzel. That's what I am hoping for in this game. Oh, you're muted.
To piggyback on your screen pass, idea, I think this is a huge Deebo Samuel game. Not only because of the way he's been talking, but it feels like them ramping up to put together one of those 2021 Deebo games for him. I think that Seattle game was
Seattle.
Yeah, that's what it's moving in that direction. This is a big Deebo Samuel game. I want to ask you something, Brad, because I've asked it to everybody this week. Regardless of whatever Deebo Samuel is doing in terms of production on the field, doesn't it feel like this offense, the heartbeat, the pulse, kind of runs through him, even if he's not even really touching the ball a ton? And I understand Christian McCaffrey is the workhorse, right? And he's the one who gets all the touches. But there's a certain way that the 49ers play when Deebo's there. And it's something about him being on the field that everybody kind of comes alive. And that's kind of what I've been noticing. I think Deebo's value goes further than the box score. And I have nothing to base that on but vibes. But it's like when Deebo's on the field, this team just has, like, all of them are like absolute dogs, man. And I think this past Seattle game, when he has 7 catches and he scores a touchdown rushing the football, remember, everybody was worried about Christian McCaffrey's usage. It feels like this is starting to move in a direction where, okay, we can lean on Deebo now for a little bit on some of these run plays. And I really have been impressed with Elijah Mitchell in his little time. He's actually looked much better, right? Yeah. So this feels like everything is kind of leaning towards, right, time of possession game, physical, right, sending a message. This all kind of lines up for me as a Deebo Samuel game in which if there was a bet for it, I would put it down that he gets the first handoff of the game, because I feel like they've run it every single time that he's been available to do it, right? Tampa Bay, I believe it happened in the Cleveland game as well. But this is a big Deebo game, I think, in my opinion. I think this is like they've been lining him up for this week, and that's why you kind of see him talking the way that he is. Like, we'll see on Sunday. He kind of feels like he's ready to go and he's ramped up a little bit more. And I think they were that was, for me, that was intentional. That was very intentional for them to spread the ball out and get him involved later on, leading up to this game and possibly the stretch run.
Yeah, to answer your first question that you posed, basically, does the team feed off Deebo Samuel's energy and what does he bring from a vibe standpoint? I am 100% adamant into incorporating a vibe evaluation into all player evaluations.
Please,
So
please.
it's always something that I do.
Vibes, it depends on the amount of vibes and what vibes you're getting, but vibes can be 50% of your evaluation.
There have been Dude, there have been so many times where I stand right by Deebo Samuel when he comes out of the tunnel at home games. I can tell by his energy what type of performance we're going to get out of him. I can literally see his pregame, how hyped he is in the handshakes, how hyped he is. There are levels to Deebo's energy that I've been able to kind of track over the years just from watching him so often. That's why this offseason, when he was working out, I'm like, this is a different vibe from Deebo than we've gotten in years past. Deebo is one of the most vibey evals you can get because he really plays with so much energy. And that was on full display against Seattle. You could see how amped up that dude was when the ball was in his hands. And that is 2021 backpack Deebo. When he had all that energy, he literally took the entire team, put them on their back, and just marched them to the NFC Championship game, almost the Super Bowl. And that's why he got the bag. That's why he got paid. And to answer your question of does the team feed off that? Oh, hell yeah, they do. 100. And the same thing with Trent Williams. Getting those two guys back, they're again, we talked about the mental aspect of it. I would say energy is a part of that. Energy comes from a mental pillar, not necessarily a physical pillar. And so as a result, your whole team, and they've talked about it, when you're in the huddle, could you imagine the confidence you would have being Brock Purdy and you see Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk, and you're just like, oh, we got this. We can beat anyone with these guys. And so with Deebo Samuel, I think he's going to be the most hyped up out of all. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be hyped up for the same reasons Deebo's going to be hyped up. I think this is going to be a wild matchup. Don't forget, Trent Williams, one of the last plays he had on that field was body slamming one of their guys. They are, bro.
This is it, man. It's a good thing that this game has. It's a good thing this game has nothing to talk about outside of just the two teams. It's so good that this game is so boring, honestly. That there's nothing to speak about. There's literally nothing to speak about. There's a laundry list of things, and it happened this one game, right? This NFC Championship game, and it spawned into this, right? Which, it feels like a budding rivalry. But as I always say in rivalries, and this is definitely a shout out to Seattle Seahawks. You got to win for it to be a rivalry, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Just in case you didn't think I was going to be petty on this one.
4-0 versus the Seahawks.
4-0. How was your Thanksgiving? Because mine's was amazing. And I know we're almost a week out, but ooh, that felt good. I hope you guys are having a blast. Can't wait to watch you guys play football on Thursday.
Just really quickly on that Seattle game, for me, it was a cathartic win. Because of the whole turkey on the 50, all that stuff. It just felt like Brock Purdy now being 4-0, 2-0 on the road. Got a playoff win against them. I'm like, Seattle? Who?
Brett, we do content, so we try to be objective and we try to watch things and figure out why, the what's happening, all of those things. Brad, I wrote down the first drive like I normally do, in my notebook when I'm watching the game at home, and I completely just tossed it to the side because I haven't felt like a fan like I did on Thursday in a very long time. In a very, very long time. I needed that one. I needed that game more than oxygen. And everybody else, I'm sure felt like that. And it's just, man, to see all those guys messing around and like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa weren't even invited to the table and they just crashed it. It's just, I know that we're talking about the Eagles and it is Eagles week because it is Wednesday and that game obviously happened a week ago, but you and I haven't had a chance to speak about it. It's just, I just sat here and I was just like a kid again where I was just like, oh my God, I am so happy this team won. So good, man. It's the bookend basically to like this rivalry. Like essentially
10 years. Like
yeah,
10
that's it.
years
It's
from
done
that
now.
game.
Thanksgiving to
It's over.
Thanksgiving. That's it. That's it. It's over now. And now, Seahawks fans, if you don't like where you're sitting, imagine being 49er fans because we sat over there for a long time. Like it's your turn now, and we've turned this whole thing around.
Yep, it's our turn now, and we got some good stuff cooking. As what are you doing?
You got a kid? You got a
just bursted through the doors. We'll see if mommy comes and swoops him here pretty soon. We might have a guest coming on here.
nice.
But
we got super chats.
Yes, we'll get to super
Okay.
chats right after this. That's why this game is like in line with that same situation with Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Like this game means more than just another game, like because of what happened in the NFC Championship game. That game against Seattle meant more than just another divisional matchup because of what happened on Thanksgiving nearly 10 years ago. It's the same thing. It's like it's a continuation of just like making those mental hurdles, right? Just clearing them and proving to yourself exactly that this is who we are. This is what we are. And you better get the hell out of our way because we're about to smash you in the mouth. And I really do think that this game is so important for the same reasons that the Eagles game was so important. But shout out to all you guys who have been very, very patient with your super chats. I do appreciate we had some right off the bat. So do appreciate your guys' patience. What's making you giggle over there?
I'm sitting here and Averly's sitting here, and it's just insane how kids like fart so loud and they just don't care. Like, yeah, I'm just like, oh my God.
Like, oh, that surprised me.
I was like, oh wow, that was loud. I got headphones on.
I got noise canceling headphones. I can hear it all the way through there. What the Oh my goodness. All right, let's start off at the top. We have Brandon says, Jay, you think we see 5-man defensive line fronts from Wilkes this week? What do you think?
I'll be honest, I didn't notice too much of that this past week against I don't know, man. They ran it against Jacksonville and it had Fred as the one linebacker, but they were like in nickel. Like, unless they suspect that the Eagles are going to come out, I think early on trying to throw the football, I think that's when you kind of see them experiment with that. But I'll ask you, Brad, just because I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Have you seen it much since that was there, like in Jacksonville? Like, I don't think that they're using it as much right now, especially with the way that they're getting home with the 4 right now and just being able to have 7 on the back end.
Yeah, I haven't watched the tape of Seattle yet, but they only brought it out for that first series, and I don't think we saw it after that.
That's the weird thing. I think they kind of test it out. They just want to see like kind of what you're doing a little bit, and they still have enough guys to cover, right? Like they feel good about that look early on to try to gather information, I think.
My interpretation of it is they're just trying to throw out different looks, seeing how the teams are going to respond to it, and just kind of put it in their back pocket later on.
Adrian Garcia says Double Agent Aponte legacy game. I'm glad someone made the joke already. That's so good. What's up, Adrian?
All right. Oscar says 2 seed, not bad. We'll play Lions at home. They'll get Cowboys.
Well, they play them once in the regular season before any playoff matchup too. So we'll get a chance to see Dallas and Detroit together. I think it's in like 2 weeks actually.
Yeah. So, and there's still a shot. Like I really like if obviously the 49ers have to win this game. That's the big one. That's the big if. And then what's going to be interesting is for the Cowboys, kind of like what this game is for us a little bit. It's kind of like that for the Cowboys. Like you talked about the Cowboys, like you're like, they're not going to beat them. They're the same old boys. It is what it is. But they do have an interesting element that they're trying to shake since the San Francisco 49ers, embarrassed them the last time we played. So interesting dynamic, and it's, anything can happen in the NFL. So I'm not going to uh gladly take hold of the 2 seed just yet. I'm really still keeping my eye on that 1 seed if there's a shot, and it all starts with this game against the Eagles.
Well, you always shoot for the moon. I guess we kind of fell in love with what Detroit was, but the last 2 weeks have been really troubling, especially when I was thinking about their remaining schedule, and you see Chicago, you see Green Bay, you see Minnesota, even though, they're hanging around. They have one game against the Saints, they have one game against the Cowboys, but for the most part, you would think that team that we saw early on would dominate them. They kind of taken steps back. And I mean, obviously they took steps back on Thanksgiving. I had no idea Green Bay was going to come in there and smoke them like that. So I didn't think they were going to lose another game, maybe one more. So either way, I think the number 2 is much more in play now than it ever was. And not that I was ever implying that the Detroit Lions are better than San Francisco. It's just their remaining schedule. Like when you look and you see Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay, you're like, all right, like these are probably going to be wins with the way they beat Kansas City. Obviously Baltimore beat them, but they beat a lot of NFC opponents. But man, I don't know. I feel a lot better about them going forward. I mean, they would have been annoying. I think the 49ers would have won, but I don't think that they're nearly as good as they were made out to be early on.
Yeah. So we'll see what the seating looks like.
Put it up right now.
I'm going to. It made me laugh, and it totally lost my train of thought about it.
All right, no, Brett, we'll
see it.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. Yep.
Absolutely, we'll get to it. Let's see. Totally lost my train of thought when I saw it. I was like,
media setting up Philly as underdog and feel good story. Yeah, I mean, all right.
The underdogs.
Again, we're doing this from the year that they won it. Look. How could they not feel slighted, right? How could they not? Let's just put it like this. How could they not? NFC champion, 10-1 at home, and you're underdog? Yeah, you got that leading MVP candidate. I don't like them feeling that narrative. I don't like that.
Beat Mahomes, beat Allen.
I don't like them feeling that narrative.
I don't either.
I don't like it at all. I would rather
come on, Vegas.
I would rather that they had smoked Buffalo and they're running into this game like, yeah, here we come. Like it's the mental gymnastics. And I talk about this all the time that obviously superstitions don't matter or anything like that. But damn, I hate that they're starting to feel like, oh, all right, they doubting us. And it's just like, damn it. Like they might have a point this time. They have a point.
Yeah, but hey, like we said at the beginning too, we want to see their best shot. And if that's what it takes, getting them motivated and getting them ready to go against the 49ers more than they already had motivation to do so, then we'll take it. That's what we want. We want them to come out swinging.
No excuses. If the Niners don't win, it's not because the Philly was running with the underdog story.
Right. I'm expecting a 12-round heavyweight bout that goes down to the wire. Like this thing's going to be crazy. Gammon says, question for each of you. How the hell do you read chat, listen to each other's thoughts while crafting your own? Big book readers? Do you read REED?
Nah. So the extent of my book collection is just like these, like I have the Miami offensive manual, Green Bay, like the San Francisco one. I got a few behind, the other side or whatever. It's just I can only fit 3 in there. But yeah, reading, man, I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with anything, but it's hard for it to keep my attention. Like I need it. I read on my phone. I read articles on my phone, stuff like that. But like reading books, oh man, I haven't read a non-football book in a long time. Yeah.
I have severe ADHD, which is a direct issue with keeping attention, especially on things like reading. I remember being in school, Jason, and they'd be like, read these pages and then tell us what you remember about it. I'd read all of it, and then I'd be like, I have no idea what I just read. Did I read something? Like, I didn't retain any of that information. So it has to be something that grabs my attention. And unfortunately, I haven't sat down with a book in a long time. The last time I can really think about a book holding my attention, Holes. Great book. Before
the movie was Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, before the movie came out, I read Holes. I was like captured by it. I was like the last time that a book has done that. But how my ADHD translates to the chat, I'm used to millions things popping off at one time. So it's pretty natural to just kind of go back and forth. But we do get comments like Brett's, which we'll get to in a little bit,
Uh-oh.
that definitely derail my thought
Make sure you
process.
do not. Make sure you do not gloss over that one.
I
Just
got the
saying.
other one right behind it. So we
Got it.
got we got two from Brett. Roberto Davis says Beagles, LBs, and CBs ain't them boys.
I think Slade's really good still. I think he's still a very good player. I think N'Kobe Dean being out has been a little bit overlooked for the linebackers. I think if we know anything about Kyle Shanahan is that he tries to find ways to put linebackers in high-low conflicts to create open space because you can jump one-on-one, but it's going to open up on somebody else. If you don't jump that one, then it's going to be the throw they're actually looking for. So interested to see what Kyle has cooked up against the linebackers and the corners, obviously putting them in positions where it's tough, where you have to in zone coverages slide off to somebody else, and if you don't, or play your rule, and if you play your rule, then Kyle knows that, and he's able to put the ball behind your ear, type stuff. Like, it's good. It's going to be interesting to see how they can do that and how they're going to. I think besides Deebo having a really good game, I think this is a good Kittle game as well too. Putting those boys on him, making them cover in space, and giving them conflicts on high lows.
Yeah, we'll see how the 49ers match up. I think the biggest matchup that I'm concerned about is, again, in the trenches. Starts off with that defensive line and how the 49ers are going to be able to get to backer and all those different types of things. If the 49ers can get to backer like they have done these last 2 weeks with Feliciano and the roster, I have a lot of faith that the 49ers are going to do the same thing against this pretty vaunted defensive line by the Eagles. But we'll see. We'll see about those corners. We'll see about those linebackers. But again, it all starts up front. It all starts up front on both sides for this Philly team. Best offensive line in football, arguably best defensive line in football. So that's what it comes down to is who can win that matchup. Man, it's just crazy how the Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL. And I've seen by other metrics, the 49ers are ranked like 21st in the league in offensive line play. So, and could be shifting around.
You know what's crazy is the way that the Eagles defensive line started, they were on such a tear. I believe they're 27th in the NFL in sacks per pass attempt. And that's a little bit shocking, right? Like that doesn't mean that they're not putting pressure on the quarterback, but that number it seems that shocked me a little bit. I didn't think they were going to be that low.
Yeah, so we'll see how it lines up. But we have one of the more interesting donation amounts that I believe I've ever seen
Okay.
streaming. Brett Rumbeck, great friend
169.
of the channel, of both our channels, $1.69. Didn't add the note to it. He dropped the note right below it, but we'll bring it up.
Yeah.
And it's directed right at me. Brett says, Brad, Jordan wants to know why you won't text him back.
And also get some Bobby Peters in your life, pal. That's what Jordan told me to tell you. But yeah, you got to stand on
Bobby
business
Peters,
on this one.
I've heard plenty about him. And
you got to stand on business on this one, though. I'm gonna sit right back.
I do, but I gotta say, it's just kind of a problem. I don't know if you can see that number right there down at the bottom. I just, I'd be in a content mode, man. I'd be grinding, making videos, making posts, and sometimes the ADHD bug just pops right in and I miss it. So I apologize to all my loved ones who never get a text back from me. I'm sorry. I'm the Jimmy G of content creators. I take full responsibility and I will continue my hardest to work better and to improve this about myself. I promise.
While I appreciate that sentiment, I will say this.
He said, I'm not letting you off that easy.
Oh, no, I'm not letting you off the hook. No. I'm not going to. So quit asking. I've heard this before. There's been no action. There's been no course correcting on this, right? Like, it's like when your partner's like, hey, I could use you throwing out the garbage a little bit more. And they did do it for a week, but then they fall back into the same pattern. Brad, I fear that's where we're going in this part of our friendship. It's like, man, we want you to change because we want to speak to you more, but you've been saying the same thing for about 2 years, man.
You're not the only one. I will say that.
I will
So
say
yeah,
it doesn't feel personal. At least that's
it's
good. I
not
feel
personal.
better about that. Yeah,
That's one thing that I would like to get across. It's not personal, but it is something that I definitely need to continue to work on, and we will continue to try to get better at. But I think it's
yeah.
probably going to be about the same.
Work in progress.
So
I'm not holding my breath.
Progress.
I'm not holding my breath.
Beast Mode Gaming says, so happy to see you guys. Can't wait to beat Philly.
Hell yeah.
I agree.
Hell
I
yeah.
want to beat Philly too. And then doubles down with first sight of these two. For sure, they don't read.
That's messed up, but true. I'm not, that's the worst part. It's like, I don't know, like, if I should be more mad that it's messed up or it's true, but yeah, damn it. Good call.
It's definitely true.
Yeah.
I'm a big human being. It's probably why I don't read text either. It's just one and they go together. So
not more excuses. My God.
That's all you're gonna get from me.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. So with this game coming up, and with the way the San Francisco 49ers have been playing offensively, defensively, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you give offensive MVP to and defensive MVP to through 13 or let's say 12 weeks of football?
For the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he leads the league in rushing, and he already has 16 scrimmage touchdowns. Him and Randy Moss are the only two players to have 16 plus scrimmage touchdowns for two different organizations in a single season in NFL history. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey. I think that one's pretty simple, at least on the offensive end. Defensively, it's picked up late with the defensive line, but I think it's still overall got to be Fred. Again, he just continued. Brad's the homie in the group chat that doesn't say anything for months and then comes out the blue. 100%.
I feel attacked right now. 100%. All right.
Adrian knows though. But Adrian knows.
100% true.
Adrian knows, man. He cooked. I'm not gonna lie, man. That was a full meal. But damn it, I even forgot what I was saying. So yeah, it's Fred defensively, and it's Christian McCaffrey offensive MVP. I think over the body of work is just too great for both of them. Obviously, even though right now, if you ask me this question in a few weeks, it could be somebody on the defensive line if they continue to stay this hot.
So, like, you would consider potentially switching to Bosa?
Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead. I mean, when Armstead starts to have 12 and 13 pressures, like back-to-back games, like we've got to start talking about it.
Yeah, Hargrave's been balling ever since some of the allegations came out that maybe he wasn't worth that payday.
Who knew? Who knew all the 49ers needed was a bye week?
Who knew? Who knew they needed just to get a little bit away from football to get right? But I would have to agree. I think for offensive MVP, I would definitely be looking at Christian McCaffrey too, just because he's been unstoppable. He really has been the motor because he doesn't come off the field. And for a running back, like in today's era, and what he does in pass protection, which never gets talked about, and all those different types of things, I think CMC has to be that guy. But it's hard because Trent Williams too, like he's such an impactful player for this team. We saw what he did when he wasn't in there. And what? Sorry, I got completely. I think you're muted, by the way.
I haven't said a thing.
Okay.
I'm just
like a zip between your thighs that hurts.
What?
All right, I'll take it. I guess.
What did you say? Brad's like, what did I do?
Like, okay, all right. I've never had one of those, but I can only imagine what that would feel like. But honestly, Trent Williams and Brock Purdy, I think, are really close, in that conversation, but it's got to be CMC right now.
Yeah.
And then on defensive side, I do have to agree with you with Fred Warner as well, because he's been all over the field. And he's been one of the most consistent players on that team. So I would have to agree. I would have to agree with those two.
All right.
Those
let's keep it fun. Let's keep it light. You ready?
Sure.
Mitch Wisnowski's been very, 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 very good this season.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh.
Do you have nice things to say about Mitch Wishnowsky?
I mean, objectively, he's hunting the football very well. Objectively.
Objectively.
Objectively. That's it.
That's your objective analysis on it.
Shout out to you, Mitch. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. He's been great.
Not
Hey,
here.
but I don't know if you saw I think it was on the Warner House podcast with Fred Warner when he had Dre Greenlaw on. Did you see like what Dre said when the 49ers picked Mitch Wishnowsky over him? He
No.
a certain type of way as well.
Of course he would. Why wouldn't you?
He's like, man, a punter got picked over me. He's
Yeah.
like, man, I must
Yeah.
I must have really messed up.
If I was an NFL player and a kicker got taken ahead of me in any fashion, I would literally put that kicker's picture up like on my mirror and like wake up and do push-ups, like looking at the like his picture and like working out, like trying to just get better because I'll never forget that.
Since you brought up the topic of kickers, what would you grade Moody so far throughout this year?
You know, it got a little rocky, but as of right now, I mean, he hasn't been asked to do anything, but I mean, he hasn't missed. So, I would say, B plus, man, so far, B plus. I think you have that rocky little part. Obviously, we'd love to have that game back, but where the 49ers are right now, it still could stand that those are the only 3 losses the 49ers have the rest of the season. So I think it's hard to kind of like judge him and be super hard on him. I say B plus, man. I think so far he's been fine.
Yeah, he's been all right. Just obvious, that miss in the big moment against the Browns.
That's it.
Any other ones that stand out?
For Moody?
Yeah.
The Minnesota miss. After the last miss. He had to go right into Minnesota the first one, but then he hasn't missed since then. So I mean, again, if it was just a moment and you got through it, then great. I think that shows a little bit more mental toughness, and I think that's really what we want to see.
Yeah, for sure. Gammon says, question, more vital piece to this offense, Deebo or Ayuk?
My goodness. This is a good one because Brandon Ayuk's the best route runner on this team. Deebo Samuel is right there with Christian McCaffrey as like guys with the ball in their hands can make something happen, right? I don't think that you can equate their skill set one to the other. But I want to throw this at you because Brandon Ayuk is so good at what he does, right? And he can beat man, he can beat press, he can beat zone, everything. He's just a receiver, like a perfect receiver, basically. But what we were talking about earlier about Deebo and the vibes and what that brings, like kind of to everybody and how everybody feels and the physical nature that they play with, it's hard to quantify it because there is no stat for it. In 2021, obviously Deebo Samuel had the whole team in his backpack. But I right now this argument feels a little bit more to me about Brandon Ayuk being the better all-around receiver, which I don't think anybody can argue, and Deebo's importance with just gravity and just the effect that it has on the team, Brad. I think that's kind of where I am right now.
This is a hard one for me because of how much success Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk have had together. And when I look at Brock Purdy, I look at a quarterback who wants to push the ball downfield, and Deebo Samuel is used more around the line of scrimmage than I would say anything else. So it's a real, like, I would probably lean more towards Ayuk right now just because of his ability to win downfield. And I mean, him and Purdy are absolutely surgical, kind of in that 20-yard range, 20 to 25 yards on the intermediate and breaking routes. And it's not that Deebo can't run those, but we're not seeing that same concepts being run with him. So, but to your point, it's like, what other impacts are Deebo having from a gravity standpoint? Is he pulling guys out of those zones? And what is the impact that way? So it's a hard question, but I do think I'd probably just go with Ayuk based on the connection he has with Brock. They seem to be 100% on the same page with what they're trying to do, and I think that's huge.
And I think the gravity thing is a little bit understated because when he's going across in motion, everybody is following him. When it's Ray McCloud, it's like, okay, we'll send a guy with him. Like I think I really do think that obviously part of the reason that Christian McCaffrey can't come off the field is because he does almost everything well, just about everything. Pass pro, is good with the ball in his hands, can run routes, can run the football. I think that's one, but I think with his gravity, it opens things up for everybody else because, you know, he goes in motion, then a linebacker moves out the way, and boom, there's a throw for Ayuk. So I do think it kind of goes hand in hand, and I do feel like it's
I
it's
agree.
hard, and especially in those 3 games when Deebo wasn't there, we kind of saw the offense have those moments where, hey, we'd love to get the ball to a playmaker here, and just one more wouldn't hurt, and it just happened to be Deebo. So I think that the answer is more complicated than skill set and more about the effect of someone on the field. And I think Debo has a ton of gravity that he draws to him from any defense.
Yeah, if you go with Debo, I could totally see the argument for Debo as well. So it really goes both ways because they affect the game so much differently.
Yeah,
They are a great complement, 1-2 punch, right, from a wide receiver position because of the gravity element. The element that Debo provides as a runner as well has been huge. So it could really go both ways,
yeah. Good
honestly.
question.
So it's a great question. That's a hard one
Yeah,
because yeah, it's like it's the same argument about Trent Williams too. It's like look at what the 49ers, did without Trent in there as well. So the 49ers honestly just have a embarrassment of riches at this point. And if they can get on track, they have a really good chance of beating this Eagles team. I know you talked
100%.
about it earlier being a close one,
Yeah.
but what would your score prediction be for this game?
I got it 31-24. I'll write about it on Niners Nation. We're gonna put out all our predictions on this one. Um, yeah, I noticed the way that Philadelphia gives it up on the back end, the way that Kyle Shanahan's propensity to just trusting Purdy and passing the football. That's a lot of P's. It all
That's
lines up
indeed.
with kind of what he wants to do, and I think the if it's not a beat later or a beat earlier, the ball comes out. Perhaps that Hassan Reddick play in the NFC Championship is just a sack, just an incomplete pass, but something where it doesn't result in Brock Purdy's injury, which was probably the 1 out of 10 chance that could have happened. I think this team is going to do all that they can to show what they intended to do in this NFC Championship game, and I would honestly say this offense is better than it was last season. So when we're speaking in that way, and we're looking at the fact that Philadelphia does have these issues on the back end, I think the team that has come in the last 3 weeks and played the best football out of all those 12 quarters in a row, it's been the San Francisco 49ers and it hasn't been the Philadelphia Eagles because they have had 2 quarters, 3 quarters where they haven't been playing their best and then they find a way to win. Consistently, the 49ers have been putting better ball up on the film, but the Eagles have won more games. And I hope that doesn't go over people's heads and people don't look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm saying over like the last 12 quarters, the 49ers have been playing better football than the Philadelphia Eagles have. And going into this game, it shouldn't change. It really shouldn't. So again, it's going to come down to execution and it's going to come down to taking advantage of turnovers and playing clean. And once you do that, I think the 49ers are as tough as anybody to beat in the NFL. So yeah, I've got them winning 31-24.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty good margin. I'm right around that. I think it's going to be kind of like a 3-point kind of win type game. I think that's where the line is right
Moody
now,
for the
right?
win.
Not maybe not necessarily Moody for the win, but a situation where someone is trying to drive down the field at the very end,
Oh yeah.
whether
It's definitely and that's what I had in
whether
my
it's
mind too with
catching
31
up,
20. Yeah.
whether it's it's
Winning
going
it.
to be it's gonna the
Yeah,
last whoever has puts up the last points on the board is gonna win the game. I think
probably.
it's gonna come down to like a volley, and it's just like you said, who can limit turnovers, who can limit penalties, who can obviously punch it in the most. It's simple logic, but it's really what it comes down to, right? It's a
For
game where the matchups are on point on both
yeah.
sides of the football. And so it just comes down to it's like who's going to execute the best and who's going to take care of the football.
Yep. 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 Yep.
These are two
For,
really really good teams.
foreign concepts, Brad. Don't turn the ball over. Don't penalize it. And then
Hashtag analysis.
And if I was the offensive coordinator, every play I would call would be successful, and I would score nothing but touchdowns. Just saying. Like they've just made this completely too hard to do at this point.
It's funny how complicated of a game football is, but when it comes down to the essence of what you need to do to win, you could say the same exact thing every week. I hear myself saying every week they got to win in the trenches because that's just what football is.
Hold on, all right,
in the trenches.
Let's do cliches. Well, the team who wins the turnover battle is probably going to win this one. Go, you do one now.
As long as the 49ers can stay in front of the sticks, they'll perform well offensively.
And while the other team presents challenges against our secondary, the front four should be able to step up and create pressure without putting any stress on the back end.
If their offensive line can hold up in pass protection, they'll not have a lot of sacks on the day.
I think it's going to boil down to the finer details, the little things that this team is able to do as a high-functioning team, and that'll be the way that the 49ers walk away with this one.
As long as the quarterback can come in here and lead this team, the 49ers have a chance to win on the road.
Protect the football, dominate time of possession, play clean football. You should be able to walk away with a victory.
Dude, it's
off the top of the head.
Yeah. It's just
no. Wait, I'll keep going. Hold on. Limit explosive plays. Play within yourself, and make sure that you guys are playing as a team together. That's the way you're going to get it done.
See, this is how you get ahead in the content game.
The
team with the most points is going to win this game, and guess what? They will be able to be better off in the playoffs for it. Boom.
Brad, the 49ers, when they outscore their opponent, are 8-0.
Damn, that's a stat.
Look,
a stat right
in the last 8 games that the 49ers have outscored their opponent, they've won all 8. That's that one. Like, that has got to be the way to win this game.
Man, see, that's why I don't get into advanced analytics, because that's just
listen,
it's too much.
Sometimes the analytics don't match up what goes on the field. This one feels like it's telling the correct story.
We should come up and do a show one day with nothing but cliches.
Nothing.
And literally
all right.
Provide zero analysis and just be like,
what we should do when
this team's healthy, they should be able to move the ball.
What we should do is we should do like a Saturday, like when the Niners aren't playing, perhaps after they get the first round bye and we're just sitting there, right? And you guys, while we're on air, pick a game for us to dissect, and guarantee all those cliches are just gonna fly. Like, it doesn't matter what the game is. Like, it could be, it could be a playoff matchup. It'll be Houston and Miami, and we'll be like, man, well, Houston's got to get some easy throws to CJ Stroud and keep the game right in front of him and not force him into any bad decisions. Like, see, again, all that stuff just comes right off the top of the head. I would love to do that.
That would be hilarious. Harris said new subscribers like,
yeah, just like, we're driving away people. They're just like, I'm not staying on this. These idiots.
What is this, man? Oh man. Any last heartbreaking high level analysis on this Eagles game coming up?
No, honestly, I think, again, like, in all seriousness, the 49ers have it right there in front of them to do what they said they were going to do. We even got a spy over from their side, Javon Hargraves on this side. So thank God we have the entire offensive playbook of the Eagles. There is your real tiebreaker edge that I'm sure you didn't realize happened, especially when Trey Lance gave away the entire playbook to the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, that type of stuff works all the time. No, it's just, again, there's no shortage of storylines. There has been this animosity. I think the Eagles hear it just as much as the 49ers have been saying it about, well, we want to see you play them with an entire full game with everybody, and we'll figure it out. There is still that doubt in the back of the Eagles' mind, or at least from what they've been hearing about, all right, you did beat them, and I think everybody gives you credit. And again, I tell 49er fans, if it was the other way around and Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew and whoever their third quarterback is, Mark Sanchez, whatever, somebody, like, all three of those guys got hurt and they didn't have a quarterback, you wouldn't be saying, damn, I don't want the NFC title game. It's just how you won it, right? For me, I think the Eagles still have that in the back of their mind, that they need to win this game to prove something to everybody, because everybody is kind of side-eyeing them, because the game definitely would have went differently. Would I say that the 49ers would have won? I don't think you can predict that, but I know that game would have went differently. And I think that's kind of where Philly is right now.
Yeah. I got one bold take for this game. I think the 49ers find a way to stop the tush push.
What?
I think Javon Hargrave is like the perfect defensive tackle to
What?
counterbalance Jason Kelsey.
What's the
It's all about
odds on that?
leverage.
Yeah, no, it is. But what's the odds on that? Like, is there a sports book bet
Oh, I have no idea.
will the 49ers stop the tush push? Because that's got to
But
be plus something for it to be no.
I think having Javon Hargrave, not only the type of player he is, but going up against it and understanding him, knowing what they're trying to accomplish, I think he can get lower than Jason Kelsey. And if you prop Jason Kelsey up, which is the whole thing, is they just steamroll over guys and they just roll on top of his back across the line of scrimmage. If you can get under his pads and then torpedo over the top at the same time, I think the 49ers might figure it out. I have this feeling that with Hargrave, the type of player he is, lining him head up on Hargrave, and then you bring two other defensive tackles into the A gaps, and then you've got two other defensive tackles on the opposite side. Obviously, you got to be on the lookout and alert for, like, them doing a fake or something like that. But if you sell out to stop that play, I feel like the 49ers could definitely figure it out. I really do.
It's less about the formation and stopping it, because I don't think other teams can run it to the effect of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that has a lot to do with their offensive line and the fact that Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds. So he's not like
ton
some
to do with their offensive line.
Yeah,
it has a ton to do with Jason Kelsey.
So I don't want to oversimplify and say, hey, they did it against Minnesota and stopped them, or this team and did it. And like, I don't think that that's the same. I think they're trying to replicate something that they can't, because the Eagles are just like, I think it was, I forget who it was. Somebody brought it up. I think it was Rob, actually, on Gold Standard Pod. I think he did today with Grant. I want to make sure I give credit that he said essentially what the 49ers need to be thinking on defense is whatever the yardage is, let's say it's 1st and 10, it's really 1st and 8. Because it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter about 2nd and 3rd. They'll go for it on 4th if they're a yard away. Like, you have to really shorten those sticks on the initial down, because when they get in that area, they're just gonna push all over, like, with all that stuff, right? Like, I think that was something that I never really thought about, but they haven't been in a position to do that against any team necessarily, right? Like watching them, they haven't just been doing that. But if they do get that 1 yard situation, then it's obviously a given, and they've been more successful than not. But I thought that was kind of interesting to think about it that way, that the 49ers may be playing like, hey, we're playing the sticks, but we want to keep you out of that situation as well too, until obviously you figure out how to stop that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think the 49ers might have a shot. And it all starts with leverage up front, and you really got to honestly, people talking about how it's like unstoppable. I really don't think it's unstoppable. You just have to stop Jason Kelsey. If you can stop him in his tracks, there is a really good opportunity to stop the whole thing from happening. So we'll see if the 49ers can do it, because I haven't seen them get stopped on that this year. I don't know if that's,
I think it might be once. Maybe once, maybe. I don't even want to bet on one.
Yeah, I don't even know. They've been on fire with that play.
Yeah.
And same reason why I don't have a problem with it is because you got to figure out how to stop it. Like, that's just it is what it is. And I got no issues, because I think the 49ers can get it and stop it. So we'll see. We'll see. Big week, big game. Philly 49ers are back. The vibes are intense, Jason.
Oh yeah. It's palpable up here. Feel it. Even though this is northern New Jersey, there's still a lot of Eagles fans around here, and they feel it. Like, they see me at the bar, I'm wearing the Niners hat. They're scared to say something. They're not as confident as you normally would think. They're starting to feel a little bit of like, uh-oh, here it comes. And if we don't, what they're gonna say. And I think that's where the Eagles fans are like nervous about.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. This is a big game with tons of implications, all the talk, all the offseason stuff. We got last super chat. 2011 49ers could stop the tush push.
They were dirty, man. They definitely would have. Somebody's kneecap would have been gone.
What was that? Isaac Sopowaga right there in the middle.
Yep.
Justin Smith. Was it Ray McDonald?
Ray
The other
McDonald.
end?
Yep.
Yeah. And then but that's a 3-4 front. I think
Yeah.
you need to stop that with like 5
5.
defensive
Yeah.
tackles in between the B gaps. Like it's a
Yeah.
crazy wedge type formation.
Yeah.
But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if the 2011 49ers defense could stop it because you got P. Willie and Bowman on the back end. You could have Whitner and Goldson like flying over the top. Who
Ricky
knows?
Jean Francois.
Oh, Ricky Jean Francois. I forgot about
And
him.
what the hell was Fangio running over there, man, in 2011?
What was that guy doing, man? So big game, big matchup, a lot on the line. This is going to be a good one, Jason. Any parting words before we get out of here?
Now, this is the one. The Dallas one, it always feels personal, but this is the one, I think, again, with all the talk, everything, I just want to say one more time, 49ers, get it done, because I don't want to hear about it after, and I don't want to hear about why you didn't this time. You have everything going for you right now. You're playing the better football over the last 12 quarters in the Philadelphia Eagles. Go get it. Like, go get it and get it done. I don't want to hear about why it didn't happen afterwards. Put up or shut up, and then just hope you see them again in the playoffs to right your wrongs. But if you can show that you can beat this team on Sunday, then the idea of the NFC running through them doesn't become as daunting as it normally would. And you already have the confidence that you can do it again after you've already done it once. It's almost like when the 49ers broke through in Green Bay. And I know that those were different games and different teams, but it used to be a house of horrors. But it seems like anytime the 49ers go in there now, when they need a win, they get it. So I think, again, it just takes one. So if you throw this one out there, then they don't feel nearly as confident as they do if there is an NFC title matchup, and you know that you already have it done, so you can do it again.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a battle for the ages. I think kind of leading up to Dallas and after Dallas, at that moment, it felt like the game of the year, but this lead up to the Eagles, it's not even comparable. Like it really isn't. This is for sure the game of the year, just kind of like we anticipated when the schedule came out. And we get wrapped up in, the Cowboys rivalry, like kind of like you said, but this game is huge. This game, I mean, I've had like, that nervous energy in my stomach all week, and every day it builds and builds and builds. This game's going to be crazy. I don't even know. I don't even know what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be similar to 2019 49ers versus Seahawks. Like that game, seating was on the line in Seattle. That's kind of what I feel like this week.
God.
It feels like,
please don't equate it to that game. My stomach was in knots that entire game.
I was screaming that entire game. That was crazy. That was just the roller coaster of emotions from that game. I feel like are going to be very similar to this game.
Did you celebrate after Greenlaw like officially got credited with the hit and they got the stop?
I was frozen.
Yeah, thank you. Good. It was just me.
I had my buddy who was a Raider fan just sitting in the corner. He was just hooting and hollering the whole time because I'm freaking out. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a touchdown. I don't know if it's a stop. He's just like, whoa! He's just like, because he can't believe it because it was a wild game. It was crazy,
Dude.
man. It was such a crazy scenario.
Dude, I went to a Niners bar in Jersey. There's a nice one. It's called Nuno's. I think it's in Linden, if I'm not mistaken. It's a dope place. And I'm watching the game there. And when it finally comes across that, like, I was just sitting there quiet, just waiting for the call. Once it came across that it was not a touchdown, I just remember I was like, all right, let's leave. We just left, and I just sat in the back of my boy's car. And I just was like, that's it. Like, I didn't even celebrate. Like, I just was like, it's like I played in the game or something. I needed that one so badly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just remember just being frozen because the anxiety leading up to that of beast mode trotting on the field on the 1 yard
line.
line.
Oh my God. It's like, oh my God, it's happening again.
It now.
Right.
It's
happening again too. We're sitting there like, oh, it's happening again. Like it's never gonna stop.
and then they get the penalty and it backs them up. They're like, oh my gosh, they're gonna throw it now. But then it's like, well, Russ, does Russ things against us all the time, whether it's with his arms, scrambling, whatever. It was roller coaster of emotions, but that's the lead up to that game feels very similar.
Yeah.
Obviously, not as much on the line, being the last game of the season, and it determines 1 seed versus 5th seed, and just such the dramatic change with seeding in the playoffs. But it's kind of similar, like monkey on the back kind of feeling, previous years on our mind, on the road. Oh, hey, all the power to you if you are confident as all can be. I'm nervous. And it's just like I would be nervous for a lot of games, but it's just like the what ifs that pile up that you just spin on, like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, I'm confident, but I'm also nervous as hell just because that's just how I am. So this game, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a crazy one.
Yep, I'm gonna take tomorrow, which is the last day of the month. Obviously, I'll do sprint right option Friday. I'm gonna take Saturday, and then Sunday I'm just fully ready to just have like heart medication on deck or heartburn medication, and just that one's gonna be tough. But hey, the post game show should be fun from everybody because this is the game of the
It's
year
either
right
going to be
here.
legendary or it's going to be a disaster.
I
There's
mean,
no
either way, you're gonna want to tune in to see what we're gonna say. You know me, I'm probably just gonna be like, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, no, this is the game that makes football fun. This is the game that was circled as soon as you saw the schedule come out, and then you wondered why it wasn't going to be the primetime game. But yeah, this is it. The lead up is perfect. The only way it would have been more perfect is if they would have already had a loss and they would have blown out Buffalo and came in this game a little bit, cocky and feeling themselves. But I do think that they're like adopting this underdog moniker, and I don't like it. I don't like the gamesmanship. I know what you guys are doing. You're not sneaky, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But it is what it is. Another element. We got a super chat at the buzzer. 2023 Niners versus 2013 LOB Seahawks. Who wins?
I don't know, man. There's no good answer to this one. Because I feel like if you pick the Niners and they don't have a full season under their belt, it's disrespectful to the Legion of Boom and how good they were. But then if you pick the Seahawks, you're a damn traitor. So it's like this one's a real big tough for me. It's like a really tough one for me because I do wanna pick the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks right now, only because they have a full season, right? Like they have a full season and they won the Super Bowl. This team is picking it up these last 3 weeks and they've looked very good. And all it took was Steve Wilkes floating to from the boot to the sideline. But yeah, it's hard for me to take this team without a full season over a team that got it done. It was so dominant that entire season in Seattle. So I don't know, man. I guess I'll say none, and I'll take the coward's way out.
I'll take the homer way out, and I'll just take the Niners. No, but it would be a crazy matchup. That defense versus the 49ers offense.
Oh, is that what this is?
Chancellor.
Is that what this is? Is it the Niners offense against the 2013 Legion?
I think it's the whole team. I think it's the whole team. I think you just mentioned because that's what they're known for. Legion of Boom. So it'd be Chancellor,
so
Thomas,
just their full teams. Oh, all right, that's different. I thought we were talking defense. That's what I was talking about.
I looked at it as teams versus each other.
No. If this is teams versus, then I've got the 49ers of this year. Then like I'm gonna like that's
team versus whole team.
Yeah. No, I thought it was defense. I was talking about the 2013 Niners defense against the Legion of Boom, just their defense. I thought that was the question. Sense. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I think that is something that you can still give the nod to Seattle. But if you're talking about overall rosters, this 2023 Niners team is better than them, and I'd take them.
Because their offense is better than
like their offense is better than
low-key game manager.
100%.
Kind of shake free on third down.
Just don't mess it up. That's how Russ got them going in the right. Like, don't mess it up.
All right. Well, barring any last minute buzzer beater super chats, I think that's going to be us. That's going to be it for the state of the franchise today. But I mean, state of the franchise next week is going to be very, very interesting one as the San Francisco 49ers continue the bird gauntlet as they go from Seahawks, Eagles to Seahawks again. So the bird gauntlet continues, and the biggest bird, the big bird boss, the Eagles, got to take him down on our way to potentially winning out, or at minimum facing the next big bird boss, the Ravens. Oh, we got a buzzer beater super chat. Don't go. Hey, if you keep sending them, we'll stay on for a little bit longer. But shout out to all you guys. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Oh, Gammon
Wow.
gifted 5 Jason Aponte memberships.
How did you do that? And who are you giving them to?
I don't know.
That's awesome, Gammon. I mean, look at all this. Look at all this generosity in the air. That's so awesome. Thank you, man. I guess if you just click, you just get it. Cool, man. That's awesome. Thank you, Gammon, man. He's one of my mods as well too. He called in last night on the show that I had with Vish. So yeah, it was pretty cool. He definitely just gave him out. Wow, that's awesome, Gammon.
That's dope.
Yeah, man.
Good stuff. Good
Love
stuff. We like this. We like this good energy heading into this week. Roberto says, "You boys goats." Appreciate you, Roberto. Appreciate everyone in the chat vibing per usual. Stay the franchise chats always have phenomenal energy, just like we expect the San Francisco 49ers to head into this game. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Jason. Anything else? You are kind of already talked about what you're cooking up. Any more articles? Any more stuff like that coming out?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll write about my favorite Niners-Eagles moment. Again, don't kill me because I'm sure you guys have a different one than I do, but that'll be up. And then Friday I'll put up my prop bet picks and everything as well too. Oh wow, Ariel 2 dropping 5 more off. My goodness, man. Let's go, man. Another one of our mods, man. That's awesome, man. And Ariel's my guy, man. He's up here in New York and everything as well too, man. Catch him all the time at the games, man. He's a good guy to hang out with, man. Shout out to Ariel, man. Ariel and Gammon, man. Y'all putting it out there right now. Y'all this is awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, this is great. I appreciate all you guys. I mean, that's so awesome, man. Gifting memberships to other viewers. That's awesome, dude. It really is such a cool situation. So shout out to all you guys. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Gammon. I'm going to go through the whole shout out to Roberto. Shout out to Cap, Bozyman. We had Beast Mode Gaming. Shout out Brett Rumbeck for the 169.
169 is fine with me.
Shout out Mark and shout out Brandon. All the super chats, donations, hugely, hugely appreciated. And we, of course, hugely appreciate your guys' support. So we will see you guys, at least us two, next Wednesday for the next State of the Franchise. And boy, I hope we are hyped for that game, just like we are hyped about this game. So I appreciate everyone tapping in. We're out of here for now. State of the Franchise out. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.